The 12 Rules by Stony Shore. Rule number 10. Keep it simple, stupid. Bear with me on this one, folks. We're going for a ride. Complex planning, civil or military, is one of the most difficult skills to master. It requires abstract thought. It requires an ability to think along multiple different streams at once, and to envision how those streams interact with one another. It requires the ability to task prioritize. It requires you to understand not only the technical details, but the personal ones too. The most important part of any plan is the people. If you know your people, if you understand them, train them, and develop them, they can do wonderful and amazing things. And if you ignore and abuse them, well, people are smart, people are creative. People can also throw a wrench in things if they are so inclined to. I don't think the suit ever really understood people. I walked into the break room of our shop and sat down next to Lee, my supervisor. After the stresses of our last encounter with the suit, and the suspicions Sarah raised, I had to know more. So, what happened to the new guy? Lee kept reading the article on his phone. Training accident. Really? He glanced over. No, not really. You lecture the fucking others, what do you think? Rule number 3, man. I shrugged. Yeah, I mean, okay, I'll just get to my point. The suit had us go do your fucking job because you were playing your wage game. But despite all, he didn't want to interrupt the game. Why? He put down his phone. Because the others aren't within his domain of control or power. They are beyond it. They are something completely unfucking related to it, unlike just about every other oddity around here. That's why. He doesn't want to mess with things that just might be more powerful than he is. I took it in. Okay, that makes about as much sense as anything can, I suppose. Lee smiled. Yeah, as a matter of fact, he asked for you specifically. He doesn't trust Mikey after what happened in Moletown. And Sarah, well, let's just say he doesn't know about Sarah, and I'm not about ready to let him know about her either. So that leaves you and me. Okay, cut the shit. Why do you take it? Why do you act like such an asshole? You don't have to, you know? You could just leave. Lee cut me off. No, I can't. My son is the biggest part of this, but not the only one. The suit likes having little dependable worker bees. Once he decides he likes a worker bee, he doesn't let them leave. Your predecessor tried to leave, and look what happened to him. That's why you are even here to begin with. He shook his head vigorously. No, I'm stuck here. With my kid or without. Now he noticed you, something about you fucking saving him. Lee winced. You should have just dropped the gun and let the faceless men have you all. I pondered that for a moment. I was so concerned with saving my own ass I didn't even think about it. Okay, fair enough, but do you know what he's up to? Lee laughed. Yeah, man, I can quite get my head around the why of it, but I sure know what he's doing. And he's creating things. Fucking monstrous things. Most of them are one-offs, but not all. Why else is this such an epicenter for shit that doesn't make sense? He makes these things with powers I can't understand, and then releases them, when they no longer amuse him. He wants to subsume humanity with another of his creations. He says he made mankind, but I don't believe him. I think he's jealous of whatever or whoever actually might have made us. He lies about creating us because we are a testament to the fact that he isn't a god. Thou shalt worship no other god, or some such. He's arrogant, he's fucking delusional, and he knows I think it, but he doesn't care. He made the mimic, and that, Rook, is probably his final project. Lee started to look flustered. He thinks it's funny to replace us with an apex predator that can't be differentiated from normal people. He embraces the chaos and fear that will cause as mimics spread and subsume humanity. He already enjoys the chaos, but the confusion of such an intrusion, the violence, the collapse, it's fucking insane. This whole genocide would just be fucking entertainment to him. Both entertainment and, I guess, wiping the board clean of anything he didn't create. Anything not in his control, spitting in the eye of whatever unfathomable beings created us and imprisoned him. But why don't you stop him? I asked, defeated. How? He can read my fucking mind, man. He can react before I do. I don't know how. I focus on what I can do, what I can change. That's the only way to stay sane. I'm bitter, Rook. I'm fucking angry. But enough about all that. You've got to meet the suit. Remember the range northwest post that they turned into a wildlife refugee? He's out there. You won't be stopped. Go. The drive out was uneventful. Apart a normal menagerie of traffic on a late afternoon, folks running food and ammo out of ranges that were still hot. Other units clearing ranges and adhering to their billets. Gut trucks, junk food, GSAs, government civilian vehicles, and range control folks just going about their normal daily routines. As I crept further northwestward and the pavement turned to dirt, the traffic dropped off. Soon I was alone on the road. The dirt road became narrower and less well-kempt until I finally reached an ancient gatehouse, stranding the boundary between the base and the wildlife refugee. I stopped. Unsure of what came next, suddenly the gate started to open on its own, beckoning me onward. Thankfully, there was just one road and it led right to an old munitions bunker, tucked away in a draw between two hills. Outside were parked several vehicles, including none other than the suit's black sedan. I made it to the door of the bunker, and it opened on cue for me. I was met by a blank-faced man in a lab coat who led me in. The facility was much larger than it looked on the outside, which was to be expected, I guess. I'd never been inside a munitions bunker, so it made sense that there'd be a lot of it on the ground. I followed the man through the maze of equipment and containment cells which would have previously been used to segregate and secure different types of heavy munitions, but were now imprisoning many things much more unique. The darkness prevented me from seeing it clearly, but in one I could see Chris laying on a cot, in another an ethereal form, in another something resembling a demon. Just as quickly as those glimpses came, they went. My mind was reeling, and every junction I passed was guarded by twisted versions of men with empty, soulless eyes. Then I was standing in front of the suit. "So, you are good with high-voltage equipment, generators, and such, yes?" He started without pretense. I nodded. "I'm certified." "Wonderful, wonderful. I had a falling out, shall we say, with our plant manager. He tried to kill the power in the facility and, well, his position was vacated. The job's yours." He clasped his hands together with a smile. "You helped me escape and, well, you're kind of my only choice right now. But I don't need to tell you what would happen if you were to become a problem, do I?" I shook my head vigorously as he continued. Good, and don't worry, this is temporary. Soon we'll be shutting this facility down." Sheepishly I asked, "So, where do you want me to be? What are the rules? Am I stuck here?" "What? No. You'll just be on call with some other additional duties. When not here, you will be back with Lee." And with that, he shooed me out of his office, and I was back in the corridor face to face with a man in lab coat. "Follow me. I'll give you a breakdown of your duties and where the equipment is." We went deeper into the facility, and the man, Gabriel, explained how things worked here. I mean that literally, the mechanics of it. Boring stuff. However, as we neared the generator room, nestled deep within the darkest depths of the bunker, we came across a bank of chambers. I slowed and peered in. "He is pretty open about what's going on in here, isn't he?" I asked. Gabriel shrugged. "Yes and no. You flee, he will find you, but he doesn't see any of us as a threat, no matter what we know. We try to speak out, and he appears, and, well, obviously no one has been able to speak out. He knows nobody can do anything to stop him." He looked sad at the last. A defeated man resigned to servitude. I leaned closer into the viewing pane of the first chamber, and in it a faceless man paced. I walked to the next, and saw a form on the ground, unmoving yet calmly in the process. unmoving yet clearly in the process of some sort of transformation or infection. In the next, I saw a naked man pacing around and uttering nonsense. Yeah, it's the infection. It doesn't take in everyone. About 1 in 10, maybe. The rest go insane and die. Gabriel opened up to me unprompted. Sure, the faceless men can infect you if they choose, but that's not always how it was. Before the infection was spread by the local fauna, well, one species in particular, the tortoise. Where the infection came from, how it spread, I don't know, but it's part of an ecosystem. It refills the well of the other reality with the sacrifices of this one. It's like the salmon swinging upstream to spawn. It turns men, and only men, into faceless ones. Or it kills them, and, well, they... I jumped as a hand rested on my shoulder. The suit was standing right behind us. "What are you guys talking about?" he asked coldly. Gabriel clammed up and looked downwards. "Your pets," I opened. He smiled at that. "Oh yes, they are fascinating, aren't they? Dangerous too. I've actually used them to help me shape other rather fun projects. A transformation is especially interesting. It subsumes the original identity and imparts fantastic gifts, including agelessness, but they retain mortality. There is still so much I don't understand about them, but do you remember the mimic, right?" he asked. "Yes, of course." "That's my pride and joy, directly inspired by these wretches," he scoffed. "You mean you didn't create them? You didn't create us?" I asked innocently. His face reddened. "I've created something better than you both. It just needs a little bit of tweaking before I release it, and then I get to watch the fall of everything my dearly departed brothers and sisters ever loved." Oh, I can hear the wheels spinning in your mind, the realization, but I also know that, as you do, that you cannot stop me. At once I was frozen, and familiar burning sensation shot up my arms. I could see Gabriel was motionless. Time itself had stopped. "Don't you ever compare me to my siblings. Never. They were jealous of me, so they imprisoned me. They subjected me to endless torture at the hands of those." His hand shot out, pointed to the faceless men. "Those demons and cursed humanity, with the burden of sustaining my eternal prison with their own flesh and blood through the disease. But this isn't the only place where that's true, no. It takes a lot of blood to sustain that prison, and a lot more that can be found out here." He caught his breath and began to calm, just as my inability to breathe was about to cause me to black out. And then he released me. I gasped and fell to the deck, followed by Gabriel. "My siblings created humanity and all the rest, but I uplifted you. For that I was cursed with eternal suffering. I was humanity's greatest champion, but no! My siblings' hypocrisies and cruelty could not tolerate it. I uplifted you, and then they burdened you with cruelty to match their own, to spite me. Then he began weeping. Then they tortured me until I had become as lost and monstrous as they. That rage sustained me. I owned the powers we were imbued with over an eternity. I bent one of their servants and straddled the division between this reality and the prison to my will, and forced her to release me when they'd become complacent. I committed them all, my dear brothers and sisters, to the void. An eternity of not suffering, but of maddening nothingness. That way you could say I'm merciful. But it doesn't matter now. I'm over it. It's almost over." His calm demeanor and smile returned. "You shouldn't ask questions like that, Rook. I might find I don't need you after all. Oh, and on the other hand, serve me well, and you may survive as a favored pet among my dominion." I struggled to suppress a thought that was screaming in the back of my mind. This plan relies on the compliance of the very people you wish to destroy. Each person you tell complicates it and increases the chances of all coming down. He smiled, clearly able to hear me. "No, that's where you're wrong. There is nothing anyone can do to stop it. Many have tried. All have failed."